Welcome everyone to today's episode of Bassin and Biology. I'm your host, Thad Moody. The robe is on today, so y'all know what that means. I'm gonna drop some knowledge on you, some science on you. So let's get started today. And two, as y'all can see behind me, the bait wall is really coming together. Quite proud of it. That tactic fish in blue and that spear point orange really popped together. So kind of like that. Nice aesthetics. But let's get started. Got my notes here. I'm ready to go. So how about y'all? Today's topic is going to be forward-facing sonar and the effects that I have seen that it's had on fish. Not so much, the populations. We already talked about that, the effects it's really had on fish populations from the scientific studies we've seen. But today we're going to discuss the effects I've seen it's had on fish themselves as I'm fishing for them in real time. Things I've seen their behavior change, way I've seen them react to different things, way I've seen them react to baits and stuff like that. So this is not really backed by a scientific study per se. There's no peer-reviewed papers, there's no published articles on it. This is all observations I've seen in real time, in person. Now, I used to be a research biologist, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt if you want to. I have written a lot of papers on observations and patterns and how species have changed over time. So I use that knowledge I've gained from my career, my education, to come to these assumptions on bass populations and for what I'm seeing in person in real time on these somewhat pressured lakes, heavily pressured lakes, and no pressured lakes. So let's get to it. First, let's start with the no pressured lakes. When out there fishing for these fish in these lakes that do not have just a ton of pressure on, and especially no real pressure with front-facing sonar and that ping going out, I have seen them react pretty much nonchalantly to it. They're a little skittish at first, but I'm still able to cast that bait down there. I'm able to work it in front of them. I'm able to watch them actually come up and hit it. And again, these are fish that have not really been exposed to some of the baits I'm using, nor have they really been exposed to front-facing sonar. These are fish that are in private lakes and private ponds, smaller bodies of water that a lot of the bigger bass boats can't get into, that I can take my kayak into, that haven't seen a lot of the technology, a lot of the lures that I'm using. And what that means is they're not really exposed to the sonar pings, whatever you want to call it, coming off of front-facing sonar units. So I'm fishing with Lowrance Active Target 2 now. I've probably got 200 hours behind it. And I'm using it more to pattern fish right now. And we're going to talk about that too in these heavily pressured lakes. Sorry, there's a fly in here that keeps landing on my face. Mosquitoes in Mississippi are horrible this year. So what's going on with these fish is they don't know what that ping is. They don't know what it means. They don't know what it is, because fish do learn. We've seen that. Mythbusters did this whole big thing because there was a myth forever that goldfish had a 30-second memory, a 3-minute memory, something like that. But that's not true. We've learned that. I actually trained a goldfish to run an obstacle course over like a 20-minute period. Went back the next day and did it again. It's all, learning. So fish do learn. They're animals, but they're not just dumb, mindless animals. Yes, you can trigger a prey response on them, a predator response on them using baits, passion enough, anything like that. You can trigger a biting response on them. They're not super smart animals. Largemouth bass really aren't dumb animals either. There's a dog hair on me. I got dogs, guys. People who have dogs, you get dog hair everywhere. But these fish in these non-pressured lakes, they're biting left and right. I'm able to see where they are, cast on them, work that bait right by them in a natural way, and they're biting on it. 9 out of 10 times I'm getting a bite. They're not running from it. They're not panicking. They're not being shy with it. They're not going off the screen when that front-facing sonar hits them. They're feeling that. I guess they're still feeling the ping because they have a little bit of a pulse to it, but they're not going off of it. And people say, there was one guy I watched. He said that they don't believe that fish can feel the stuff coming off a front-facing sonar unit because their body composition is almost the same as the water. I mean, there's a lot of water in them. I mean, those fish are probably close to the same as us, 70+% water. But they also have a big hollow thing on the swim bladder and organs that are packed with air. So when that ping goes through there, they have to feel some kind of vibration, whether it be through their occipital bone in their ear that they use to hunt with and pick up vibrations, whether it be that lateral line that they use to hunt with and pick up vibrations, or their bodies themselves, the organs inside them, are feeling something. And I know they're feeling something because I've jumped in the water and had someone hit me with the front-facing sonar. I could hear it underwater. I stuck my goggles on and went down, and I could hear it. I could not really feel it, but like as I could hear it, I could kind of, it's hard to explain. You go jump in the water, let someone just ping you for a while, front-facing sonar. You'll get what I'm talking about. I'm doing all this in the name of science, so y'all don't have to. So again, take that with a grain of salt as y'all will. Aldi's, non-carbonated. Trying to get healthy, guys. So take that with a grain of salt as you will. These fish are definitely feeling something front-facing sonar. I think there's a learning curve to it. So that's kind of the overview on the non-pressured, not used to seeing the front-facing sonar lakes. The fish are biting like they've never seen it before. They're biting these baits in front. I'm able to work it and easily trigger a predator response even in the dog days of summer. Now let's go to a mildly pressured lake and what I'm seeing on that. And as we get to mildly and heavily pressured, we're going to get deeper and deeper in depth into these fish. The mildly pressured lake I went to is a little bit larger. It's a big public state park. It's decently pressured. It's got some tanks in it. It's got people out there every day, more than likely using front face. Every day I'm out there, I've seen someone else out there scoping around, trying to find them. So they're getting that front-facing sonar. They're exposed to it a lot, a decent amount. And what I'm seeing on these fish that are exposed to it a decent amount, not just like, a super amount, but a decent amount, they are having some reservations to biting. They're not as adept to bite as those non-pressured lakes. There's a little bit of hesitation to it. I'm getting a lot more follows than I am bites, really. Probably getting 6 follows every 4 bites. Sometimes it's 50-50. And the fish are actually reacting a little bit different to the baits. They're following it, they're checking it out, they're not real sure. And again, what I'm doing is I'm holding that front-facing sonar, I'm following that fish, so I've got it on there for a good long time. And as long as that front-facing sonar is on there, the fish are a little less likely, 50% chance of biting. Whether I'm throwing a jig, whether I'm throwing, shaking a minnow, a jerk bait, crankbait. I have a lot of follows with a spinnerbait, surprisingly. A ton of follows with a spinnerbait. And worms, throwing a wacky out there, letting it sink, whether they be in 5 feet of water or 20 feet of water, letting it sink down there and working in front of them. You're hearing that a lot more. And if y'all can hear that cricket chirping, there's a cricket in my garage, and it's a problem. But these fish are a little less apt to bite with the sonar being on them. But the second I take that, that sonar off and I find what depth they are and I fish that depth and kind of where they were, I'm getting a lot more bites than I was with the sonar on. I'm still getting 50-50 bite with the sonar being on them. And I think that's kind of the learning curve. They've learned, I'm feeling this hitting me. I probably don't need to bite this bait. I remember last time I did it hurt. And people say fish don't feel pain. I personally believe they do feel some type of pain, some type of pressure, something like I had surgery in my back recently and they numbed the area. I could feel the push and pull and cut like that. It wasn't super painful, but I could feel it. It was uncomfortable. And I almost, think that's kind of how the fish are. It still hurts, but it's not like, I took a hook and put it to my lip or something like that. I don't think the nerve endings there function the same as they do in us. Because a lot more ligamentation. Now, if you hook them deep in the gullet or something like that, they probably do feel it a little bit more, as opposed to in the jaw or something like that. But these fish, they're kind of learning is like this feeling. Cause I think it's like they feel when that ping hits them. Like this feeling means something maybe not good's about to happen, or it happened a week ago. Now, if that fish don't feel that pain for 2-3 months, does it associate with it? It might not. That probably becomes more adept to bite. And that's why I believe, less people fish in the colder winter, late winter, stuff like that. And front-facing sonar is a lot more useful. Or when it's, dog days hot out there, it's a little more useful to find the fish. So I think they don't associate it so much after they haven't been targeted for a while with something bad happening on these mildly pressured lakes. They're still, when I hold it on to them, every now and then they'll leave the screen sometimes, or they'll follow the bait more, they'll look at it more, they'll become a lot more wary of it. And that's on the mildly pressured lakes. So far we covered mildly pressured and heavily pressured lakes. Next we're going to go with highly pressured lakes. And these are lakes that when I go to, that there's multiple people every single time scoping around, catching fish, fishing for them, using scope constantly. They are exposed to it a ton on these public lakes I go to, and I mainly go to them just to see the reaction of the fish. And what I found on those lakes is 9 out of 10 times they're not biting anymore if you hold that front-facing sonar unit on them. I'm pretty sure they have very much associated with, I feel something going on in my body right now, and what's going on is not good. Something bad's about to happen. If I eat right now, it's gonna cause me pain in the long run. So we really don't, they really have started associating with that feeling of it to something bad. Now there's a study done back in the 60s or 70s at some point where they were seeing it's a reactionary study. And what they did, they tested an animal, they hit it with a light, and then they shocked it. And they saw how many times that took before they hit it with a light and it flinched because it realized something bad was happening. They went all the way down to an earthworm, and I think it was like after 10,000 times or something. There's some stupid amount, ridiculous amount. They hit that earthworm with that light, and even though it has eyes, it has photoreceptors of some kind in its skin. It's got a nervous system. They hit it with that light, and the worm flinched. It moved, thinking something, this is fixing to hurt, it's going to be bad. So that shows that they can have a reactionary and learning curve to associate pain with different things, whether it be light, whether it be a sound, whether it be that specific type of vibration that's coming off that front-facing sonar units. These fish may have the possibility and ability to associate that something bad's going to happen. I'm fixing a lockjaw. I'm not going to eat. And on these heavily pressured lakes, if I hold that unit on these fish, more than, a minute or two, I want to say probably 7 out of 10 of them leave my screen. They don't stay there. And I can tell the ones that are bass and which ones are not, because the crappie and the catfish and the brim will normally stay in there because they haven't associated that with it yet. Because crappie are high keep species, and ones that are caught normally don't go back in the water. But the bass have started to associate that with something bad's about to happen. So 9 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times, they leave. 9 out of 10 times, if they stay on the screen, I'm not getting a bite. I may get a few follows, but I'm not getting a bite. Whether I'm shaking a minnow at it, rolling an A-rig bite, a crankbait, a jig, a worm, stuff like that. They're just little lockjaw. They have associated. I have this feeling, it's almost like that sixth sense, someone's watching, you get that tingle in the back of your head. They've almost associated with, is I've got a feeling that something bad's about to happen. I'm fixing a lockjaw and I'm on alert. And fish have that learning. I believe they do. Some people may disagree, and that's what the comments are for. Comment what you think. Keep it civil. Children watch this show. We're all decent human beings here. I would hope so. So keep it civil. But what's your opinions on that? Do you think they are associated and they feel with it, or what? And again, this is all going off what I'm seeing in real time over, a couple dozen trips. And these bass are they're more wary. They're not staying in that cone of that front-facing sonar for very long. And if they do, they're not really biting much. A very low bite rate, a decent follow rate. It's maybe a bait they haven't seen. But what I have seen is if I find where they are, and the second I find it, take that front-facing sonar off of them. That way they're not getting hit with that wave. And learn my second count, how long it takes this bait to drop down, stuff like that. I'm getting a much higher bite ratio on these highly pressured lakes than I am than keep front-facing sonar. And what I mean by that is I will put the beam on them and quickly take it off. And a lot of my baits, whether it be a crankbait or if it's a sinking crankbait, I know how far I need to cast to get it down to that depth where that fish was, at least. And I'm keeping my line with it. I'll set my line, it's like, I know that fish is over there, take it off, cast that way. I know how far I need to cast past it to get that crankbait down to the depth. And that's one good thing about front face sonar I've realized. It's much easier for me to learn my count for these baits to sink. how long it takes my wacky rig to get, from 1 to 5 feet versus 5 to 10 feet versus 10 to 15 feet, because the deeper it goes, the denser the water gets, the slower it sinks. Same thing with a spoon, my jigs, pretty much any, bait that I cast out there, drop shots, stuff like that. I've used front-facing sonar a ton to see how long it actually takes that bait to get down to that fish's depth. And I have, again, I carry a notebook, waterproof notebook wherever I go, and I write all these notes and stuff down in my notebook. That's one benefit of the front-facing sonar, is learning how your baits are actually fall, their actual fall rate. Because they will fall different here in Mississippi, because we have very, turbid water. We have very muddy water. And there's a lot of sediment in it versus if I go up north where it's, crystal clear, looks like the ocean out there, a lot quicker fall rate than that. So front-facing sonar does have a benefit of that. It does let you see at what depth these fish are hanging out. It kind of gives you more of an idea where that thermocline is, how wide and how the structure's going out, what the structure actually is. So front-facing sonar does have all those benefits of that. But I have seen the more it's being used, the more fish are associating that ping. And again, this is all my opinion. I have not read just a ton of scientific studies on this, because front-facing sonar is a new thing. You need years and years and years to do true scientific studies on stuff. But I do believe they're associating that feeling, because sound and vibration travels around 50 times faster, something like that, 5 times faster, 50 times. It goes faster in water than it does in the air, and it has more of a reverb in the water than it does in the air. So it's going, it's moving. I truly believe they are feeling something, whether it's in the inner ear bone, whether it's in their swim bladder, that big open air thing where vibration passes, it goes from water, air sac, back to water, or water body, air sac body, water, or whether it's their lateral line. They're feeling something, in my opinion. They have to be. If I could go it and feel it in my gut, and my chest, and my lung cavity, that goes from water to flesh to, what is it called? The airplanes have it pressurized. Your lung stuff is pressurized in there. You feel it hits that thing, and then you feel it go beyond you. You just feel that gurgle in you. If I can feel it, I have to imagine fish can feel it, if nothing else, in their swim bladders. So I truly think that they're starting to associate front-facing sonar with something bad's going to happen, whether it be almost like a predator-prey assertion that now they're no longer predator, now they are prey. There's something that's going to happen, whether it be pain, whether it be something that they don't like. I truly believe that they are starting to associate front-facing sonar with negativity. Something negative is about to happen, which fish do have a learning curve. They can learn. Because if fish didn't learn, we wouldn't have to keep making new lures to catch them. We could still be using those, again, right there. Those are all wooden lures from like the 20s and 30s and 40s. We could still be using that stuff. But fish learn over time. And I think they're starting to associate this with it. Now, if you go to a lake that's super pressured, and for 4 months, no one uses any front-facing sonar out there, and you go out there and you use it, would your catch rate be higher now in that highly pressured lake? I'm going to find out come late winter, because I'm going to do it. I haven't had front-facing sonar in the winter yet. But I do believe, yes, I do believe that after a while they will disassociate, kind of like we all did in school. You stare out the window and disassociate for a while, and you don't really realize what's going on anymore. I believe fish after a while will disassociate and no longer associate the ping of the front-facing sonar to negativity. Some of the smarter, bigger fish may, but overall, I think if they don't get front-facing sonar for 4 months, they don't have them negative consequences for 4 months, I believe that they will start to bite it again. And as the spring rolls around and in the summer, and as there's more and more pressure with front-facing sonar, I believe that bite ratio is going to go down, because they're getting hit with it more and associating with negativity, and they call it, sort of whatever. Then it'll go right back up later on. It's something we're going to have to study. It's something I'm going to study personally, using it. Because again, I use front-facing sonar when I'm in tournaments. I use it more to get rid of dead water, stuff, learn more about the structure, my ratio, my fall rate, stuff like that. I use it more for that. When I'm doing these, trying to learn more about fish in general and their behavior, that's when I'm watching all these fish, how they react, stuff like that. So take what I've said today with a grain of salt. If you don't like what I've said, comment, tell me what you think, and we'll have a nice civil discussion. I may put a podcast on it and invite you on to the podcast and see what your opinion is. I know this was a shorter podcast today, guys. I know it's not the normal 30, 45-minute ones, but it's just something I'd like to put out there with front-facing sonar and what are the possible effects it's having on fish. Not so much the population, but the individual fish. And is it creating a learning curve? That's the big question here. So as we go on further with it, as it's used more, as new stuff comes out, we're going to see the truth of it. More scientific studies are being done on it, and even some of your top experts will tell you it needs more time to have proper studies done. So let's give it a little time. Let's not go all ready to be on it yet, guys. But I believe it is having an effect on fish behavior and the way they act in biting. So in the long run, we'll see. In the short time, you got me trying to figure this stuff out. So good luck. All right, guys, that's it for today. And as always, take your kid fishing, tight lines, be good stewards and conservationists of our wild and waters. So it's for our next generation. I've got a kid and I'm taking him fishing this weekend. It's gonna be one of the first times he goes. So I would love for him to be able to enjoy the outdoors like I have. I know y'all would too. So y'all have a good one, guys. See you next time.